everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Between Sermons. And actually, this is a super special episode of Between Sermons because it is the last one of 2024. That's right, this is the end. But don't worry, because we're going to start fresh again next week, 2025. And actually, next week's episode is also going to be super special because we are making a super important announcement that Sunday. And so you want to make sure that you are checking out that message, but also our podcast for that week because it is going to be good. But yeah, so here we are. This is Between Sermons. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Brent. I'm the lead pastor at Christian Life Center. And what we get to do in this show is kind of continue our conversation from Sunday. And really, in a lot of ways, Sunday is a monologue. There's a person on a stage talking at a group of people. And so what we like to be able to do is turn that monologue into dialogue, turn it into an actual conversation where we can get a little bit deeper, get a little more practical even. How do we take what we hear on Sunday and actually live it out Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and throughout the rest of the week? And so to help us with that conversation, I'm joined by the amazing co-host, Taisha Beasley.
Welcome. I am so excited to be here today. It was an awesome message and I can't wait to dive in. But before we get started, we have to welcome our special guest. She is very special. If you have been to Christian Life Center to visit, you see the Hope Cafe, and her amazing husband and team is doing a great job. So let's welcome Kelly to the show. Hey. So Kelly, are you excited to be here today?
I'm excited and nervous.
And nervous. Girl, you got this. You look good. You look fabulous. And yes, and we're here with the host, Brent. So we're going to have some fun. The conversation is going to be good. Before we dive in, how was your Christmas?
My Christmas was awesome. I had 3 Christmases, so they were all really, really good.
How did you have 3?
Because we did one for the cafe.
Okay.
That was the best. And then we did our family, and then we did my dad's family yesterday. So
fun.
Yeah.
So you got like double, triple.
Oh, I got lots of stuff. It was really
lots
good.
of love and gifts.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Yeah. What about you, Pastor Brent?
We only had 2 Christmases, so
okay.
Not quite at Kelly's level. But we did Christmas just my 5.
Okay.
For Christmas Eve, and then
nice.
Christmas we got to join my sister and her husband and their daughter and my parents.
Cool.
And so we got to celebrate Christmas all together. And then actually Friday night we did our first annual McQuay Christmas Games competition.
Nice.
It's something my wife has been wanting to do for a while, and I keep telling her no because I'm the Grinch. Bah humbug, apparently. But no, so she just found a bunch of games and things on Instagram that are like Christmassy.
Oh, yeah.
And so then we actually there's some footage out there of like Pastor Jerry with some whipped cream on his face.
Stop.
And some great fun was had by the McQuay family on Friday night.
Oh, I need to see that footage.
Oh, it'll be posted at some point.
Okay.
It's not up yet,
okay.
But it'll be there. We
So
had fun.
I think people opening gifts or even having more than one Christmas is like a new thing. And I think I just realized it this year. I was looking on social media and I was like, wait a minute, people are opening gifts on Christmas Eve. Like we did that actually at our house because we had 2 Christmases. We did one with just myself, my husband, and my son, and then we went to his dad's house and did it with their family, his step brothers and sisters. And so I won't say step, they're like his brothers. They are his brothers and sisters. But it was just a great time. But I'm like looking on social media, I'm like, people just opening gifts like 3 or 4 times.
Are you not supposed to open presents for Christmas?
I thought it was like one thing, which was Christmas Day. Okay. I didn't know, like I thought you would get in trouble for opening gifts.
Oh man!
Before Christmas Day,
we've opened Christmas presents like a week before Christmas before. So we're ministry family. So
okay.
There's like complications with like I think that year like Christmas fell on like a Sunday.
Oh.
And we had Christmas Eve service. Like it was just. It was a mess. So we're like, you know what? It's a week before Christmas. Let's just do it with the kids.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I can see that.
Yeah, we're rebels.
Yeah.
We're wild out there.
Man.
In the Playhouse.
Man. How did you guys spend Christmas? Let us know in the comments. Now I'm curious. So I want to go back and look and see how people are spending Christmas.
I can tell you something fun about Christmas. So my side, actually we had 4 Christmases now that I think about it. My mom's side of the family does a nailed it competition every year and arm wrestling competition. So Ramon won his 4th trophy for arm wrestling. He's undefeated.
Look at her bragging on her man. She was like, since I'm live, let me tell the world.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Well, I know who I should not be arm wrestling.
Right. So
The 4-time champion.
right.
Undefeated.
She's like undefeated. Get it
Just in
correct.
case my
Get it right.
cousin sees
Get it right.
Oh, I love that. I mean, so I think this is a good way to segue into our message, or maybe not, but I think it's good because we talked about Elroy today, continuing the name dropping series, which has been amazing. And it talks about the guy who sees you and just how it relates to Christmas, like just having the opportunity to spend time 4 times, 5 times, 3 times with your loved ones and just have those special moments shows that God, he loves us and he cares for us. It's like a little sweet kiss on the forehead. Like, I see you. I know it's been a rough year. I know, it has made things have been challenging, but I see you. I mean, that's how I took it. Like, God sees and he cares about the little things. So having the opportunity to spend time with your families is a special thing that God sees.
Sure.
Okay. Anyway,
You kind of lost me on the kiss on the forehead.
I always say like when God allows us to have those little moments, I feel like it's just like a daddy thing. Like, you're my child and I see you. Okay. That's what I mean. That was nice.
That's beautiful.
But the message was good. Pastor Jerry opened up. He did an amazing job. He carried us through a couple stories. He started off with Hagar, and then he talked about Hagar.
Hagar is the prophet.
Yes, you're right. And he talked about Jacob, and he just laid out the different places where Elroy, the God who sees you, showed up. And so I kind of want to get your input. How did the message impact you today? We'll start with you, Kelly.
For me, I was excited about the name because I really like this name. It's what actually I spoke about last January on New Year's Eve last year. And like, I've read the story. I know the story of Hagar and everything. And I love the fact that he saw her because he saw, like Pastor Jerry was saying, she was all alone by herself and she was feeling some kind of a way because now she's friendless. I didn't even think about the fact she would think, I have to give birth and how am I going to do that when I have no resources and no people? So I could definitely see how that would be something troubling on her mind. But for me, I love that he sees me because there's been so many different times where I've been low or just desperate and need something. And that was how I ended last year, or began the new year, was I realized, he is seeing me. He's seeing what I need and he's providing it. And it's funny that you said you kind of think it ties with Christmas because this whole Christmas time has been really special because we kind of struggle with some things. And every single time that it was something little, like okay, I wanted some Bath and Body shampoo the other day. And I was telling Ramon, like, oh, it'd be so cool if we can get the shampoo 75% off. And then I'm like, but we can't. And my friend texted me, hey, I'm at Bath and Body. Can I get this? And I was like, oh, he really does see you. And so it's little things like that. But for me, it was all those times that I really needed him. The times that I was really broken, really low before I even found God and everything, when he put his eyes on me. And I don't know. I think it's a really special thing, but I think you have to want him to see you in order for him to see you. Because if you're not looking for him to see you, then you're not gonna recognize he see you. So
that's really good. And I want to unpack that some more later. But Pastor Brent, what about you?
Yeah, so I love the message. I do have a kind of a love-hate relationship with this story. Because it's and I don't know when you want me to nerd out, but
go for it.
Like the story of Hagar, like there's so many firsts that take place within this story. So like there's a lot of significant things, but it's all built out of stupidity. Right? Like so Abram like is an idiot in this moment. Sarai's an idiot in this moment. And like there's so much just stupidity that's happening. And so like it frustrates me. And then the result, the outcome of this is the Arabic people who are at war constantly in the region. And like there's so much devastation that happens to the people of Israel as a result of this one moment. And so like that's why I hate it. But then I love it because the God who sees is a beautiful name for God. It's a beautiful idea about God. It's comforting when we're going through things. I love how Pastor Jerry said it towards the end, is like there's nothing that happens in our lives that God doesn't see.
Yeah.
And like that is comforting. There's like, you never have to give God information. Like, hey, God, don't you know what's going on? Like he knows, he sees it. But at the same time, I'm like, I kind of wish this whole thing didn't happen, because there would be a whole lot more peace in the world, I think, if Ishmael was never born. So it's like I got conflict with this story.
Yeah.
It's beautiful and it's awful and it's ugly and it's all built out of stupidity, and there's a lesson there for us to learn about not trying to make things happen and just letting God do it in his timing and trusting him in the process. But
True.
That's a whole different message.
Do you think that's why God showed up and met Hagar?
So I think part of it is like the gifts of God are without repentance. Like it doesn't, they're not removed. And so when God blesses Abram and says, I'm going to make you fruitful, what we actually see is that applies even when Abram does the wrong thing. And so like Ishmael being born, Ishmael having 12 sons, Abram, we don't talk about this part of the story. Abram, after Sarai dies, he goes on and marries another woman, gets a concubine, and has 6 more sons. And they have nation. Like when we say that Abram or Abraham becomes the father of many nations, it's not one and it's not two. It's many, and it's this family is just explodes out of one guy because God touched him and said, you're going to be fruitful, you're going to multiply. Even as a 99-year-old man,
right?
Like crazy stuff happens. And so like there's a lot of repercussions to all that.
What really stood out to me in this story was when Pastor Jerry highlighted that God, and it's actually in the scripture, how God told Hagar to go back to that situation. I was like, that does not feel like God sees me. What was your reaction to that point when you read it or heard it?
Yeah, I think if I was Hagar, I definitely would have not liked it. But how many times has he told us to go and do something? How many times even being married, like sometimes it's tough being married. And like one time I was really, really mad at the kids and Ramon, and I was like, I'm going somewhere. And I was driving down the road and I heard, go get donuts and go back. And I was like, oh no, God, no way. They made me mad.
Oh my
and
goodness.
He was like, go get donuts and go back. And I went to Dunkin', got donuts and went back, and I didn't want to, but it was the best thing I could have done. So I mean, I know that doesn't compare to going back to somebody who's verbally abusing you. I'm assuming that that's what she was doing, but we all have to do that stuff. So I think it would suck, but like Pastor Jerry said, he knows what's ahead of you. He knows the whole story, so he knows what's best.
Yeah. I was going to ask, why do you feel like God will ask us to go back sometime, Pastor Brent?
I think that's God's way of saying, like, suck it up, Sally. Like I think there's some times when we're complaining about our situation and we're so frustrated with the circumstances, and God's just like, hey, look, I'm going to do something through this, but I can't remove you from it, or I can't do the thing that I'm wanting to do.
That's good.
Right? So it's like, it'd be like Joseph complaining about being sold into slavery or wrongfully imprisoned. Like, it's like, yeah, but I need you to be there so that you can end up number 2 in the whole country. You can end up saving your family. You can save all of these people. Like, I'm doing something, and there's some sucky stuff that's going to happen to you, but I need you to just deal with it. Like, trust me in this process. Not everything that we encounter in following Jesus is going to be rainbows and sunshine. Like, sometimes you actually have to pick up your cross and carry it
daily,
right? And so like I think there's a lot of moments where God just kind of looks at us as we're complaining about stuff, and he just says, you done yet? Like, okay, you got that out of your system.
Yeah.
All right, put on your big boy pants. Go do the thing that I already told you to do. Go do the thing you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
And I think that that's kind of the moment that he's having with Hagar. But I don't know. There's so much in that story that's, I don't know. It's crazy.
And you're talking about the full story. I feel like you just want to nerd out like right now and just
No. I don't. So the interesting thing with Hagar's story is, like, I would call it like the story of firsts. It's the first time that a human gives God a name. It's the first time God addresses a woman by name. It's the first time that we see a promise, like a prophetic word about an individual person. It's the first time you see a well being named after God, which is a theme that gets carried throughout a lot of the Old Testament. You get a lot of different wells that are named for specific things that God is doing. This is the first time that happens. It is the first, I would consider it the first Christophany. So Pastor Jerry pointed out that when you read in Scripture, the angel of the Lord versus an angel of the Lord. So an angel of the Lord is just a generic angelic being. The angel of the Lord is what we would refer to as a Christophany. So Christ is being revealed before he's in the flesh. And so when the angel of the Lord speaks to her, that's the first time we see in Scripture the angel of the Lord doing something. So like there's so many firsts that happen within this story. And it's for a woman that isn't Jewish. She's not an Israeli. She's not part of the promises. She's basically there because Sarai doesn't trust God.
man.
And Abram decides to go with his wife's horrible idea, which is also a common practice of the time. And like there's interesting things that you can read in like the Code of Hammurabi, where like that was an actual practice of the time, that if a woman couldn't give birth, she would give the slave, and the child that was born of the slave would be their child. But Sarai never claims Ishmael as her own, even though that's what the whole process was supposed to be. Like, it's just like all the people in the story do the wrong thing, do the bad thing, and God is still blessing it. And I'm like, why? That's weird.
Because he
the
does
story
that
is
for
just
us,
a mess.
though.
Right.
He does.
Yeah, he does
And
that
sometimes
for
I'm
us.
like, why?
Yeah.
Well, praise God. God is God.
Yeah.
Sorry, did I just derail all this?
No.
That's why I started off by saying
No.
I've got such a love-hate relationship with this story, because there's so many amazing moments and amazing things. I mean, even just the fact that the first person in the Bible to name God is not following him. Like,
Yeah.
that's
To
crazy.
me, I feel like it's, I don't want to say magical. I feel like it's great, and it speaks to who God is. He always uses the things, I don't want to say dumb, but I feel like I'm picking up some of your habits.
I said the word dumb and stupid too often. Yeah.
He uses those things to like do what he pleases. He uses the people that you would least expect it to show himself to. And so I think it just speaks to his character. So for me, I love that part.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of it.
Yeah.
And that's the love-hate relationship
Yeah.
with this dumb story.
Yeah.
I have a question. Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Why did... Yeah, I understand that this was their customs and everything, but why wait till you're in your 80s and 90s? Now, all of a sudden, I want my slave girl to have a child. What about before all that time? Like, why not when you're 50 and 60 and 30? And like, why when you're an old grandma?
It's a great question. We don't have an answer to it.
Yeah.
Like, we don't get a glimpse of that thought process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, they waited to the very end, and this is after God's already promised, hey, I'm gonna bless you, you're gonna have a son. And they're like, okay, cool. And then it didn't happen right away, so they're like, all right, well, let's do it our way.
Yeah.
And their way sucked.
I know, and the writer in me is just creating a whole story. So I'm like, maybe because it goes with the storyline and you know why Sarah didn't trust God, you know. So that's what the writer in me, but that's not fact.
Yeah.
But so Kelly, have there been moments where I know you have a major testimony that you've shared about finally seeing that God sees you. Have there been moments in the past where you did not feel like God seen you?
Oh, yeah.
You.
Saw you.
Yeah.
Saw you. I'm like, what am I trying to say? Where God didn't see you. Has there been moments where you felt that way?
I would probably, I love my kids, but I would have to say most of those moments were as a parent. I probably felt unseen the most because the busyness of being a mom, and I've been a stay-at-home mom for almost 20 years now. So I think that a lot of times, just being a mom, you get lost in that life and you feel unseen by people and by God. And it's like, well, I'm reading your word and I'm doing this and I'm doing that, like the complaining that Pastor Brent was talking about. And, but I had those moments where he did, let me know, no, I got you. I see you. This is, even like something so small as I was feeling overwhelmed one time with the kids and I was at my sister-in-law's and I had the thought in my head, it would be so nice if my husband would come home from work early today. And this time he worked like an hour and a half away. No joke. 5 minutes later, he showed up at the door and I was like, what?
You see me?
It was. And I needed that. I needed that relief and I needed him in that moment. I just needed the comfort of having my husband there. And he answered my prayer before I even asked for it. So, I know that Hagar said he sees me, but he said, I hear you. I heard what you were saying. So I feel like the seeing and the hearing kind of go together.
That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pastor Jerry asked a question and I was like, I'm snatching it for the podcast when he said, when was the moment you realized that God sees you or he saw you?
The only moment?
Well, the way he asked the question was like that one moment, that pivotal moment in your life where maybe it was that coming to Christ moment for you. When was that moment where you felt like he truly saw you?
Will you really want me to tell you?
I do.
Okay. So, like I've known, but when I actually truly was like, whoa, there was, I guess I would say 2 times, but the most recent one was, I was just started singing and I was singing a song to him and I was like, okay, this is weird. And I just kept on singing it and it was going, deeper and everything. And I closed my eyes and he showed me, like I knew where I was. I could see, this is Kelly at this age. And this, I could see like there was my past and everything. And he was actually standing right behind me. Like Jesus was standing right behind me. And I could see everything around me was just black. And there was all this darkness. And I knew he didn't want me to go into the darkness. And I went anyways. And I knew I was leaving him. And I knew that he was like, it was almost like I knew his thought. He was going to wait right there. Like, go ahead, go into the darkness and I will be right here waiting for you. And I knew he was going to see everything I did. And I still chose it anyways. I still chose to go into the darkness. And I knew what that was like I could see this in the vision, but I also knew in reality, this is me when I call it when I was in the sin pool, when I was all up in the 90210 doing things I shouldn't have been doing and everything. But I knew in that vision, he was waiting for me. When I was not with God, I didn't know who God was. I didn't know who Jesus was and everything. But for him to show me, I was there when you did this and I was waiting and I saw you and I was waiting and I was waiting and I've seen everything. But like Pastor Brent said, that he still welcomed me back. And he waited right there for me till I came back. And that was, I guess, my biggest aha with him seeing me.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It is awesome. Because God is good.
Can you top that, Pastor? I mean, that was pretty
Definitely
good.
can't top it. I've had, I don't know, a lot of different moments. I think I've already shared a few of them on the show in different times. But there's one that there was this moment. I was probably 19, 20 years old. I was in northern Nigeria. We were on a mission trip. There's about 100 of us, but when we got into the northern Nigeria, it's a very violent area. It's not safe for Christians. There there was riots in the street while we were there. There was a Muslim holiday that was happening, and so we had to stay on a secure compound. So like middle of nowhere, armed guards just to keep us safe. And in that moment, like there's a little bit of fear, a little bit of worry happening, and we kind of huddled under this building. I guess I'd call it a building. Basically just had like struts, like just big poles and a tin roof. So no walls or anything. And so we're under there and we're starting like just a prayer service together. And all of a sudden it starts raining. And it is like the hardest rain I've ever heard in my life. But there's no walls and it's a tin roof. So like it just makes that sound like deafening. And so we're under there and you're just hearing the strength of this storm all around us. And I don't know, there was just this moment in prayer and worship under that metal roof that all of a sudden it was like you could just tangibly feel the presence of God in a way that was like, you're here. And like it wiped away all the fear, all the worries that we had. And it was just a beautiful moment of just worshiping in Nigeria.
Man,
It's like, God's here. He showed up.
that's awesome. It provided comfort for like being
Yeah.
in the middle. That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, for me, it's, man, I could just remember being in a season where I just felt like I wasn't where I should be as a believer. And I just remember just always, I would feel his like hand, like, I'm here. Don't go too far. Like, literally being like, don't go too far. I'm here. And I could just feel him pulling me back closer to him. So I think we have those experiences where we experience him as Elroy, God who sees me, because there's a lot of times where you don't feel seen.
Yeah.
And sometimes it starts by like humans. You just don't feel seen by your husband or your wife or your friends. And I think, well, let me ask you guys this question. Do you feel like not recognizing that God sees you affects how you feel other people view you?
Man, that's good. I'm gonna pass that one over there first.
He's like,
I don't know. I'm not the right person to answer that
Okay.
question, because I'm the I don't need people to see me.
Yeah.
I prefer
Yep.
if they don't. That's
You're right. You're
People
right.
don't understand. They're like, but he's on the stage like all the time. He's doing a podcast. There's cameras. Like, no, I would much prefer to be behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want people seeing me. That's part of that whole social anxiety thing. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, the less people seeing me, the better. So that kind
But
of
you're
puts it in a
everywhere,
weird place.
so
I know, yeah.
It doesn't work. What about you? I know you mentioned that.
I love being seen.
Okay.
I do. I would take center stage. I love that stuff. But I don't know if that really affected, I don't know if God seeing me, my doubt of him seeing me affected people seeing me. But yeah, maybe the experience of feeling unseen by people, I don't know if that necessarily affects me and believing him being able to see me. I think that's more of whatever trauma that I had in my past and everything made me not be able to trust that somebody would see me and everything. So I don't think it's necessarily people not paying attention, maybe just the tough stuff I had,
Yeah.
in my life. So
I want to ask, because
Yeah,
that was when you said that, I'm like, okay, elaborate. So when you say like the trauma that you experienced, like that was something that caused you not to feel God seeing you. Can you share more about that?
Well, it was not the easiest growing up and everything, so it was tough. I came from I don't know if my family watched this or not, but I came from a divorced family, and there was a lot of hostility and everything. So I think just the growing up in a hostile environment and a lot of separation and different things that happened caused me to not trust humans and not trust God. He was always there, but my relationship with Jesus is a real relationship with Jesus versus how it was when I was growing up, versus how it was when I was a kid. I didn't have like a real relationship with Jesus. It was like, oh, we go to church on Sundays, or really actually just holidays, and I'm in Catholic school and blah blah blah. So I knew I could talk to God, but I didn't really know what that meant until I was probably around 25 is when I actually started walking with him and everything. So I think it was just a lot of trauma that caused me to not be able to trust. And I feel like all the time he's just healing and healing that. So it helps me get closer to him. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
So what are some practical things we can do, like moving into that segment? What are some practical things we can do or encourage people who are watching to do when they are in seasons where they feel like God does not see them? I don't know who want to go. Pastor Brent, you want to take that one?
Yeah, I think that what we always have to do is there's always going to be a difference between what you know and what you feel, and feelings lie.
True.
But the truth doesn't. And so the truth is God sees you. Even when it doesn't feel like he sees you, he does. And so what we have to do is trust the truth. Trust that when he says, I see you, he means it. And that there's nothing that we go through in life that he doesn't see. And so it's either going to be for my good or it's going to be for his glory, as we say around here a bunch. Like, if I can just trust him in that process, I don't need to give him new information. I don't need to inform him of what's going on in my life or in my situation. I need to trust him in it, that either there's a good that's going to come about out of this and I just need to keep plugging away. Or maybe I'm in something because I did something I shouldn't have. And there's consequences to that. And I need to get back on the right path. I need to get back to following him. But whatever it is, I need to trust in the truth and not in my feelings. So when it feels like God's not there, or if it feels like God's abandoned you, remember that those feelings are a lie. The truth is he sees you, he cares. I love reading Psalms because David so often will start a psalm basically doubting God. Like, God, where are you in this? Why have you forsaken me? What is going on here? Like, David will make all kinds of accusatory things at the beginning of a psalm. But by the time he gets to the end of that psalm, without fail, all of a sudden it's like, but God, you're glorious, and God, you're amazing, and God, you're awesome, and God, I trust in you, and you make my path straight. And so, like, there is such a beauty in, we can express these feelings when they suck, but always hold on to this truth that, hey, sometimes I just need to vent. I need to just let it out. But then I need to operate as if he does see me. And if I'm going through this, there's a reason for it.
That's good. What are some things you do, Kelly?
Well, like, if I was going to speak to a believer or a non-believer, I think that the answer would be a little bit similar. But if I was to speak to a non-believer, I think I would give them advice that somebody gave me, and that is just to call out his name. And I think that's kind of how, well, for me, that's how it began. Like, you know, if I was having a bad dream, just to call on his name and he would help me. So I think just saying his name, saying Jesus helps. But maybe like how Pastor Brent was saying that David seemed to praise at the end, maybe putting on praise music, because sometimes you have to like hype yourself up and get yourself into that moment, because if things are piling up and you feel unseen, or you feel, well, just unseen, you have to, at least for a female perspective, our feelings kind of go all over the place. And so I'm cool, and then I could cry or whatever. Hallmark comes on and I'm over here tissuing it up. And so, you know, I think that getting yourself in that position to be able to worship him or be able to praise him so you can get all those thoughts out, because I know the cool thing about females is we can think like 20,000 thoughts in a second. Like, I'm thinking 10 things while you're talking, and you know, I can plan dinner while I'm making coffee in the cafe. And so there's so many things going on. I have to like calm all that down and quiet it down. So I'm able to recognize, and then you can recognize that, you know, because you have to trick yourself sometimes to remind yourself, like, no, he's here. He's real. He loves me. Like,
because a lot of times we're distracted by what's going on. That we don't recognize or we don't see that he's here. So those are good. That's good. So we are to one of my favorite parts of the show, where we come up with who has the best takeaway for the show. Well, for the sermon, I'm sorry. And Pretty and our team out there rates us. And so I'm going to go in the middle. Last time I went first. So which one of you want to go first?
I'm going last because I don't even know what this is.
So she's like, I'm going to go. So you basically share a moment that really like stuck out to you that you feel is the best takeaway for the message.
From the sermon today?
Yes.
Okay, I'll let him go first.
Yes. So we'll start with you.
Ooh, see, I usually go last.
So you can steal
I wasn't even thinking about anything. Because, you know, girls have that ability to think of a million things. Guys have the ability to think about nothing.
Yeah, true.
So I was here thinking about nothing. Okay, so the God who sees, my big takeaway is, I think it's just the confidence in knowing that he sees. The truth of that statement, that even if it doesn't feel like it, even if I'm going through something and it's like, God, do you even care? Do you even see this? What I love about this story is that God saw and he did something, right? And in every single story, that was the case. So like, even with Moses, when he says, you know, it's been 400 years of you guys crying, and I've seen it, and I'm here to do something about it now. Now, we could complain and argue like, man, why didn't you do something on day 1 instead of on year 400? But the truth is, everything works according to his timing and his plan and his purposes. And so if I can just trust the one who sees me, it'll be okay.
That's good. You still kind of stole like a little bit of mine.
How could I steal yours when I went first?
There's no way. So I said
See,
I was gonna.
if I go first, I steal. If I go last, I steal. There's just no winning this game for me.
What do we give him, Pretty?
An 8.
An 8, solid 8.
Okay.
Trust is important.
Trust is important. Mine was God's timing. Crickets. Let me
feel
redeem.
like Taisha is stealing something.
Let me see how I can bring this all together. I just think that his timing was good. So he waited. He allowed Sarah to not be able to have children for a long time, and then he waited till she got really old, and then they had to bring in the young lady. I don't want to say slave girl.
Oh, see,
but they had to bring her in.
I have to cut you off because, man, I love you, but I hate that language.
What language?
That they had to bring in somebody else. No, what they had to do was trust God.
No, but I'm
the
just
whole
saying,
story is the fact that they screwed up.
I know, but it's still all of God's timing. Like, if she wasn't old, she wouldn't have felt like she had to use someone else to help them get a child.
Cap on that.
Huh?
I'm calling cap on that.
Yeah, no, you're getting
that's cap.
That's cap.
You know why?
We're capped out.
How was that?
Because check this out. Look at. I just think that she had a trust problem, and
Yes.
I try, like, okay,
But God
for example,
works
I don't know what I'm going to do, right? And I'm like, what should I do, God? Should I work? Should I not? Do I need a job? I want a job.
Okay.
I don't know, blah, blah,
Okay.
blah. But I don't want a Sarai moment. Because I don't want to do it in my own way, and then I'm going to mess it up.
Yes.
Because if I do it a Sarai way, and then I have her moment, then I'm just going to, I've done that before, been there,
Yes.
seen that show. I don't want to watch that.
I
again.
agree
Yes.
with you
Here-
both. You
here's
didn't let me.
Hang on. Here's the thing with this story. This is why I have a love-hate relationship with the story. It is not a good story. It is not a positive example. No. I gotta get this off my chest. It's not a go out and do likewise kind of story.
Okay.
You are not supposed to be like Sarai or Abram in this story. You're not supposed to be like Hagar in this story. Like, we literally are experiencing war after war after war, all because
True.
of this horrible, awful,
But
God-forsaken choice.
But it had to happen, and
No.
that was the point.
That's the part that I disagree with.
It was God's sovereignty. Like, it happened.
That's not sovereignty. Had to happen. Did it have to happen? No.
Okay, it didn't have to happen, but it happened that way, and God redeemed it.
No.
We wouldn't be
No.
preaching on. We just said that if none of that happened, he wouldn't. A lot of the first
God
wouldn't have
fulfilled a
happened.
promise to Abraham despite Abraham's stupidity.
Right,
That's
but
not
it's still-
that's not redeeming. There's nothing redemptive about Ishmael.
Okay, I get that. I'm talking about all of the first that happened in the story. God revealed himself to Hagar. All of that
still
wouldn't
take
have
objection to
happened.
the had to.
That wouldn't have
had
happened.
to.
We wouldn't have that story.
Know what we would have had? A different first that would have been a better story.
The world, if Adam and Eve, if they didn't bite,
Right?
then of course, but God redeemed the worst of the stories. It was all in His plan.
No. That's where this is good.
This is not good.
Yes, it's good. Was it God's plan for Ishmael to be born? 100% no.
Okay,
That was not God's plan.
I understand all of that.
Is God sovereign? Does God know all things? Yes. Does God knowing that Ishmael is going to be born mean that God caused that to happen?
No, I didn't say that.
Causality and knowledge are not the same thing.
I didn't say that. I said we wouldn't have the moments that we have from that story if the story did not happen.
Sure.
That was the first time we just said.
This is the first time we've ever disagreed on the show. This is great. I love it. Taisha hates it, and I love it.
So I'm saying.
I bet David wants to jump into the conversation right now, too. Can we get that man a mic? Get David a mic.
I'm just saying. I'm not saying we all make. Sometimes we don't make the right decisions. We don't trust God. All I'm saying is that God can take that story as messed up as it is, and there can be elements of it that where He still gets the glory. That's what I'm saying.
Sure, I agree with that.
And that's my point. That's all.
Just don't say it had to happen.
Okay. I have so much to say there, but okay.
Please.
No, I'm just saying, I know it didn't have to happen. Like, we have a freedom of choice and will, and we make bad decisions sometimes, and it shouldn't go that way. But even in those bad decisions, like, God still is a part of his plan.
I think this is like something he said on the other weekend on one of the Sundays was he'll bless you still through your mess. But I don't agree that it's his plan either. Only because when I was standing there and he was right behind me and I saw the darkness in front of me, I chose to go into that darkness.
We have a choice.
Reality, I chose that.
That
wasn't a part of
plan.
God's
so it's
plan
like
wasn't for me
telling
to
a
do
woman
that.
who gets pregnant and she's not married and she has a beautiful child that child being born was not his plan.
Yes.
Well, I don't know what to say to that.
God's plan does not include your sin. Your sin is a disruption to the plan. So I heard somebody talk about it like this one time. We're not on plan A anymore. Like, none of us. Like, plan A for our lives, none of us are on plan A. None of us are on plan B or C or D or E or F or G. We're like so far down the alphabet's like quadrupled as far as the plan that we're on. Because God works all things together, sure. And he's going to make things happen and change. However, that doesn't mean that every choice I make is good.
No, I know
and
that.
I can make bad choices that are not his plan. His plan is always perfect. So if I sin, I'm going outside of God's plan. Will God still use that sin to do something? Sure. That does not make it his plan. His plan was still over here, but we left the path. We abandoned God's plan. And
so now I feel like you have to encourage all of the people who were born outside of marriage that they are still, it was a purpose that they were created.
Oh, yes. So that God has already incorporated them into what's going on. But you can't say that God wanted that person to commit adultery.
No, I'm not saying that even Sarah's lack of trust in God was his plan.
Right.
I'm saying that he used that story
Yes.
to get the glory.
And that's all I'm doing. I'm just getting you to the right language.
Wow. That's all I have, folks. What was yours? You don't even have to rate it, pretty.
So my biggest takeaway is love and forgiveness, because they all went they all sinned.
Yep.
And if you read the story before this happened, I was like, wow, Abram was really doing some things he shouldn't have been doing. They all sinned, but he still forgave every single one of them. And he forgave Hagar, and he met her right there in the middle of her sin. And he talked to her, spoke to her, and like you said, called her by name. So I feel like this is, for me, a huge story of love and forgiveness of what he does for us every single day, all the time, because he meets us where we are in all of our mess.
I give that a 10. That's
That
a
was
good
a
one
10.
right there. Taisha,
That was a 10.
I just have one question.
I don't know.
Do you love and forgive me?
Of course I love and forgive you, brother and pastor and leader. Of course. For what, this moment or what? Which moment are we talking?
Just all of it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I'm glad.
Yes. So thank you for being a part of this conversation. We had a great time here. This is what it's about. Conversation, continuing the conversation from the message. I hope that if you did not have an opportunity to watch the message, go and watch it. It was an amazing sermon taught by our founding pastor, Pastor Jerry. And it'll help you understand a little bit more about this conversation, but also let us know what your thoughts are about this conversation. I know we got some opinions out there now since we opened a whole
I really hope there's going to be like tons of arguments happening as a result of this, that there's going to be people that are like, no, Taisha's right. No, Brent's right. Like, I would love for you to be at a coffee shop, listen to this and have to pause it and be like, all right, what do you think?
Yeah.
God's plan or not God's plan?
I know that was intense. I'm going to say I trust because you are my pastor, but I'm still wrestling with some things over here as I conclude the show. But thank you for joining us. Please like, share, and comment, and we will see you guys next week.